NASCAR fans rarely agree on anything. I mean, we really don't. But if there's one thing we can all agree on, is this. Homestead-Miami Speedway should be and should always be the hosting track for the NASCAR Championship weekend. I will die on this hill. Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, my name is Taylor Kitchen and welcome back to Above the Yellow Line, the show where we do motorsports media your way, talking about NASCAR all the time. In this race at Homestead, it was a home run. It was shaping up to be an excellent battle to the finish, with Kyle Larson and Ryan Blaney fighting for that lead spot, with Denny Hamlin, who was on a long run strategy, trying to chop into their lead. We didn't really see how that was going to play out though, because we had a late race caution with a game of risk versus reward. On lap 256, Kyle Larson saw his opportunity to get the lead. Ryan Blaney was going to the inside of the lapped car of Austin Dillon to try to maintain his position in first. Kyle Larson said, I think I can get that position by going in between those two cars and trying to make it stick. And unfortunately, the number 5 got loose and spun out. Lucky for him, he was able to maintain most of his track position, was able to get going, but ultimately, that is what cost the 5 car the win, was the risk versus reward move, where there was no reward for the risk. So we talked about the 11 team and how they were running a long run strategy. There was another Toyota team on that same wavelength, and that was Tyler Reddick's number 45 team. However, with their team, they were hoping for a caution, kind of a Hail Mary, so Tyler Reddick could pit from the lead. He could get back on track and be smooth sailing. Unfortunately for them, though, when their pit window was, where they were just kind of breaking the barrier of not being comfortable anymore, staying out on track, was a few laps prior to when this Kyle Larson caution came out. So kind of put the team in a tricky position to where they stayed out on track when the caution came out and the rest of the field came to pit road. So it was a matter of seeing, could the 45 car on tires that weren't as fresh as the rest of the field maintain position and potentially win the race? Because we know with these late race cautions and these late race restarts, we get chaos, but it did not disappoint with Tyler Reddick lining up right beside Ryan Blaney on that restart. And it looked like at the end of the day, it was going to be Ryan Blaney's, but then you see Tyler Reddick riding the wall through turns 3 and 4 on that final lap. And in that final corner, the number 45 gets to the front and wins the Straight Talk Wireless 400, locking himself into the championship 4. It was one hell of a last few laps. To me, from the perspective of the 12, it looked like Ryan Blaney's car just got a little too tight, wasn't able to do what he needed to do with it. Blaney said he thought he got into 3 really hard, but the number 45 just blitzed into there and it stuck and they got it done. And the 45 team had to definitely get it done today at Homestead or at Martinsville, because if you look at their past 2 weeks prior to this win, they had a roll at Vegas, and then at the Roval, they barely made it into the round of 8. They had a very rough race there, but they kept digging, and now they are fighting for a championship. The first time in 23XI Racing's history, they are locked into the championship 4. It was so cool to see Michael Jordan at the track there too, celebrating with Tyler Reddick. And there's more layers to this as well. I believe that the regular season champ should always be in the championship 4, just to show some sort of consistency with this playoff format, which is hard to see, but it is nice to know that Tyler Reddick, the regular season champ, has earned his spot into the championship 4 with this win. Also, if you take a step outside of the track and look at the news surrounding NASCAR right now, with 23XI Racing, Front Row Motorsports enacting the antitrust lawsuit against NASCAR, 23XI Racing is fighting for a championship this year. So take that as you will. But everything is just very interesting with this win and the way this is panning out for 23XI at the end of the year, proving that they are here to stay, they are here to contend, and they can win races and potentially win a championship. So pretty cool. Let's look at the rest of your top 10. Of course, 1, 2 is Reddick and Blaney. And third, we have Denny Hamlin. And this was quite honestly the best performance he has had in the 2024 playoffs, actually contending for a win as opposed to trying to chase those mistakes, which, to be fair, they had pretty rough pit stops this race as well. And that's been kind of a consistency the past few weeks with the 11 team. However, that money stop that they needed at the end was solid to get them the track position they needed. Ultimately, wasn't a win for Denny Hamlin, who was looking for a win this race to lock himself into the championship 4, but a step in the right direction, especially going into Martinsville, where they're going to need to perform at their best. In fourth place, we had Christopher Bell, who won this race last year, just wasn't enough to get the win. Fifth, Chase Elliott. Sixth, William Byron. And honestly, the top 6 Either one of them could have won this race, and the top 6 are all playoff contenders. So very good to see that these championship contenders were so close battling for these positions, and a lot of the times battling for the lead. And to me, this is a very good sign that shows we do have the best 8 drivers inside the round of 8 fighting for a championship this year, so it's a little bit refreshing to see, but nevertheless, a great top 6. Then you look in 7th at Alex Bowman, and in 8th, AJ Allmendinger, and I really do hope this is a preview of what we can see from him in 2025 returning to the Cup Series full-time. He got that result on raw speed. Same with the guy who finished in the 9th position. Carson Hocevar raced inside the top 5 and top 10 all day long on pure speed. Again, I can't say this enough, but he's had one hell of a rookie season. One of the best I've seen in quite some time, especially for the equipment that we kind of thought Spire had at the start of this year. He's going to get that Rookie of the Year title convincingly on points, but nevertheless, I'm so excited to see what he can do next year with the new drivers that are going to be his teammates, Michael McDowell on the team, and excited to see Justin Haley full-time with that team in 2025 as well, of course. Had some issues today during the race in the number 7, spinning out, I think, twice, but nonetheless, I think Spire has a strong lineup of drivers for next year, a strong organization, especially just bringing in Rodney Childers to the fold, Eddie DeHaan. I know those two are going on to the number 7, but nevertheless, Spire is bringing in great people to that organization to make them race winning and potentially down the road a championship winning organization. But focusing on Carson Hocevar yet again, a fantastic run for him in 9th. Rounding out the top 10, we have Ryan Preece, and this is the second week in a row that he's gotten stage points. Didn't finish the race last weekend where I thought he should have, but this weekend finishing inside the top 10, and then you look right outside the top 10, he has some other Stewart-Haas Racing teammates right behind him. We have Josh Berry in 11th, and in 12th, Chase Briscoe. So great to see that organization performing well as the season ends, and of course, as the organization is closing its doors at the end of this season. But that's it with the top 10, and just beyond that, I do want to talk about the other 2 playoff drivers that I did not mention yet. Of course, Kyle Larson finishing in that 13th position. Had issues early in the race yet again, another instance of the 5 team having to play catch up due to early issues. This time, it was a tire that was going flat. Kyle Larson got into the wall early in the race, and they had a really good rebound. And then, of course, we have the risk versus reward moment towards the end of the event where Kyle Larson ultimately, of course, didn't lose that many spots after the incident, but it was the pit stop after the incident is what cost him. He lost 6 spots on pit road ultimately and was not able to finish inside the top 10. Last but not least, we have to talk about Joey Logano finishing this race in the 28th position. And there's 2 ways to look at his performance at Homestead this weekend based on what I've seen online. One is he's not performing on par with the championship contenders. This proves that. Or you can look at this as the team has locked themselves into the championship 4. These next 2 races, because of the win you're in, mean nothing to that 22 team. Of course, you want to perform the best you can for your sponsors and the best you can for your team and perform that obligation. But they do not have to put 100% effort into Homestead or into Martinsville now that they're locked into the championship 4. They are focused ahead to Phoenix and winning that championship, and by winning Las Vegas, they've earned themselves 2 extra weeks to prepare. So I'm not concerned at all by the performance of the 22 team. I honestly think they are just focused ahead to Phoenix, and that's totally fine. The goal for Penske was to help Ryan Blaney as much as they could, getting him into the championship 4, because right now he's in a must-win situation looking at the points now. He and Chase Elliott are very far below that cutoff line. Blaney minus 38 and Elliott minus 43. But here's the thing about those 2 drivers, though. In their championship years, 2020 for Chase Elliott and 2023 for Ryan Blaney, they won at Martinsville to get themselves into the championship 4, then went on to win the championship at Phoenix. So they've been in this situation before where the cards were against them and they had to win at Martinsville. So when the pressure was on for the 9 and the 12, they were able to win at the fall race in Martinsville and then go on to win the championship. Can they do it again this year? I don't know. Only time will tell, but those are the 2 drivers that need a win at Martinsville to advance to Phoenix. Then, of course, you have Tyler Reddick and Joey Logano that are locked in. So let's look at the drivers that need the points to advance to Phoenix. And the points are actually very close. You have Christopher Bell plus 29. You have William Byron only plus 7. Below that cutoff line, you have Kyle Larson minus 7. And then you have Denny Hamlin minus 18. So we're going to see some varying strategies here with two drivers in must-wins and other drivers at the moment who can still race their way in on points. It should be a very good race. I'm very excited to see it in person for the first time. It's been on my NASCAR fan bucket list since I started watching the sport to go to this cutoff race in Martinsville. And this, I think, will be a really good one to see. But that is it with the point standings right now. Let's go to rate the Homestead race above or below the yellow line. I think 10 years from now, we're going to think back to races that we would consider like a certified classic. And I do believe that this is going to be one of those races mentioned. It was an absolute home run. We had a record number of lead changes at this track during this event. We had really exciting battles for the lead. I felt like almost constantly, same thing with the middle of the pack. It was constantly competitive, and I think that's just a product of this track. It fits any driver, any racing style. It is so good. This race was so good and this track is so excellent that it should be the championship race moving forward. We know that Phoenix has the championship race on lock for 2025, but after that, we have no clue. So if NASCAR knows what's good for them, they should announce that Homestead-Miami is returning in 2026, and fingers crossed that that's the announcement that we get. At least that's the announcement I dream of and a lot of you are dreaming of right now. But there are some issues. One, you think about ticket sales. Homestead-Miami has had issues trying to sell tickets, trying to sell out their crowds, and that was the case for the championship races. And you want to be in a place, you want to be in a market where the fans are coming out in droves, filling out those stands, putting their butts in seats. And we have sold out crowds for a championship race. In Phoenix, they've been able to do that. Homestead-Miami, their last few years, it was hard to do. From seeing some of your comments on social media, Homestead-Miami also needs to update their facility a little bit to host a race like the championship. So there are several aspects at play here that don't lead NASCAR potentially to wanting to make it the championship race yet again. But I think a lot of this too was just think about the economics of this all for fans. I'm going to speak about my experience here, and maybe some of you can relate. But when I budget out my races for the year, I try to do a really good job at that, but money gets tight towards the holiday season at the end of the year, and you have to cut some things back. And that was the case for me. I had planned to go to Martinsville. I had planned to go to the Roval, and my thought process was I should have enough bandwidth for another race, but ultimately things happen. The holidays approach us, and towards the end of the year, your budget gets really tight. And also another oversight on my part is I went to way more races than I thought I was going to at the start of the year, which already put my budget in a really tough spot. But I know for a lot of fans, you think really heavily towards the first half of the year, and then maybe August hits for the second half of the year, and you go, oh, financially, it's probably not smart for me to attend a race. Travel costs are insane, from flights to hotels to gas, and just some people cannot make that trip. And when you have Homestead-Miami Speedway having a one-off race at the later half of the year, I think that hurts them. So I would hope with them having a race earlier in the season in 2025, that's going to help them hopefully put more butts in seats, but only time will tell. And even with all of those issues in mind, to varying degrees of severe or not severe, I still believe with my whole heart, because of the product itself, that Homestead-Miami Speedway should be the championship race. With that said, though, this race was fantastic. It gets a 98% without question above the yellow line, either tied for the best race of the season or it is the best race of the season for me personally. I don't know if you all agree with that, but this race had everything and it was just so flawless. What did you all think of this race, the Straight Talk Wireless 400? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, for more NASCAR news, make sure to go to TobyChristie.com. And for even more NASCAR news, make sure to go to Racing America on SI. And for more about us here at Above the Yellow Line and to keep up to date with our content, make sure to go to AboveTheYellowLine.com. And while you're on AboveTheYellowLine.com, make sure to go to the store and check out this hat. All proceeds from hat purchases go to Dysautonomia International, and this hat is only available until October 31st at midnight. So this hat goes towards a good cause, and it's only available for a limited time. You only have a few days left to get this hat, and it goes towards a good cause. So of course, again, make sure to go to AboveTheYellowLine.com, go to our store, and look for this hat. All proceeds, again, go to Dysautonomia International for Dysautonomia Awareness Month. But y'all, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with your friends and family. And thank you all so much for tuning in. And until next time, I'll see ya. Bye.